So after that distraction, we're going to get started. I think we have 11 on the schedule for today. So we should finish, and you'll still have about an hour to get ready for the bus. Not quite as much time as the schedule had said. These couple seats up here, hopefully they are advertisers, and they will then get out of the way and someone else can come down. Remember, the popular things are we're hiring, we're having a meeting, I'm working on a project and I need your help, or somebody is just wrong. Well, that one's not quite as popular, but I expect it might happen. So we'll get started in a second. One other thing while he's still waiting, I have an ad. Tonight at dinner, you're supposed to use one of these yellow tickets to get in. Before you turn it in, write your name on it. Because Looney Labs and the other company that I can't write, Black Stories, sent along many games. We will draw names out and you can get one. Or possibly a few other things. I don't know about that yet, but it might happen. It might be in the pile. We're going to work it out at dinner, so put your name on your ticket before you turn it in. And now it's time to start.
No, I have to hold this. Hello, I'm Julien. I'd like to talk about Geekuni and about expanding your Perl team with online training. Now, I'm not Andrew Solomon. He looks different than he usually does. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today because of a family thing he has to resolve. But anyway, I'm going to talk about his company, Geekuni, who's sponsoring this event. Thank you very much for that. You may clap. But not too long because I only have 5 minutes. So, okay. So basically, Geekuni is an online interactive training software that's great for onboarding new hires and for cross-training developers. So I looked at the last Stack Overflow developer survey, and it said 39%, which is over a third of all the developers, said they received training on the job. That's quite a lot. So how can we help these developers learn in a more efficient way? Well, Geekuni can. Let's look at some use cases. There's onboarding new developers, which is great with Geekuni because you get instant feedback from the tutor bot, which is the built-in thing that looks at the code you write. It really motivates you. You get a full certification for your new hires that you can put on, or they can put on LinkedIn, and it shows up like an actual certification with like an ID number and things. And there's professional code review because Andrew will actually be there as a mentor, and he will look at the code they write. Another thing is cross-training, which is also a good way to get more Perl developers, because we all know how hard it is nowadays to grow your Perl team. It is easy to dip in and out of Geekuni, while these people are actually, these co-workers of yours will actually work on their current day jobs as well. Everyone can work on their own pace, and for the mentor it's easy to identify knowledge gaps. And now I know all of this not only because Andrew told me, but also because at my work, who I'm not representing right now, we use this to train our developers. There's one of them in the audience who's used it, and I think he liked it. Well, you can also combine other materials with it. It goes really well with learning Perl or with beginning Perl. I know the author of that one. You can go and say hi to him. I can introduce you. There are progress reports, and in general, it's really nice because this ties in with the Perl documentation as well. It offers a structured program that takes the weight off of your team leads. It gives you trackable progress. It really gives the recruit a sense of ownership over their own learning, which is a nice thing. And it's cheaper than doing face-to-face training. And I've mentioned that earlier in my own talk. Some of the things that new recruits need to learn, be it Perl or some other programming language, just doesn't really make sense to teach one-on-one to everyone. It's much more efficient and probably better to just use one of these tools. And Geekuni is one of those tools, and it really works quite well. And it's also really convenient for cross-training. So there are two different courses, one for Perl Essentials, which refers a lot to the Perl documentation and to learning Perl. You can read that long text on the website if you want. And there's a web development one for Dancer 2, which introduces you gently to MVC and to how to write a web application, and there's some JavaScript in there and some CSS, and those both are quite nice courses to do. Here are some testimonials. This one is actually from one of my trainees. I came to Geekuni from a self-taught front-end perspective. Creating projects gave me a much clearer idea of how Perl is used in real-world applications, and the tutorbot gave me the ability to troubleshoot my own code easily, which helped me to feel more confident in my ability to program in Perl independently. I don't know why she wrote such a long sentence. Here's an anonymous one. That's another actual user, and like the name's been anonymized. I don't know it. I learned about the specifics of Perl, not of programming in general. For me, the pace, e.g. introduction of new concepts, was just right. I keeps it engaging. Many of the exercises were pretty fun, offered elegant solutions, and were non-trivial. And another one says, I found this to be an excellent study, really helpful to get into coding Perl as fast as possible, and it discusses some interesting topics as well, especially the weird behaviors of Perl. Well, anyway, I think it's really cool. It actually works if you hire people that haven't programmed before. It works if you hire people that have programmed in different languages before. If you want to talk about it, come and ask me. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to put you in contact with Andrew. Thank you very much.
Hello? All right. So I just want to share something about regexpression, which is pretty much a work in progress, or so far a personal study. If you read it or outage report from Cloudflare, there's a very famous regexpression, which is anything followed by anything, equal sign followed by anything. This basically means that there's going to be a very disastrous backtracking behavior. And what interests me is that on the official postmortem of this outage report, they actually use a tool on CPAN, regexp debugger, to demonstrate this disastrous behavior. So the conclusion basically draws to this chart, meaning that this so that is a reduced version of the actual regexp. The actual regexp is much longer, but that's the problematic part. But the core part is, the core spirit of this is that the length of the input is the amount of step requires to match the length of input is non-linear. It actually grows much faster than the length of input. So they have this chart, and I thought, well, what? They sort of demonstrate this thing with regexp debugger in a movie. But do you know that you can actually use regexp debugger non-interactively? So I quickly sort of wrote a version of this, basically showing fuzzing this, and this is the first column is the length of input. It's just a bunch of ones. So 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So this particular regular expression, it takes 7 steps to match an empty string. And then 20 steps to match a single character. So that's a very interesting one. So yeah, so this more or less reproduce what they draw on the chart. So this is how you use regexp debugger non-interactively. So you pass a save to parameter, and then it'll actually do the entire matching, but like save the whole screen that is being printing very fancily on your terminal to the output. So the output is very messy. So on if the string, the same regular expression from Cloudflare, and then a 20 character string will produce a 10 megabytes output. So I'm trying to figure out if there's a way to sort of trim this down, but like also the core of regexp debugger is a regular expression that matches regular expression. So think about that. So yeah, it's interesting implementation, but I also cannot figure out any other way that would actually do the same thing. So it's actually pretty difficult. Anyway, I also look into how the RE pragma, in which you can there's a documented way to sort of give you some debugging information. So when you run this small program, it gives you this interesting output. So it basically sort of parse the regular expression, say, here's some elements in the regular expression, and then here's the steps that it takes to go through them. But if I scroll this down, there's only about 20-ish steps. So this basically tells, instead of like the 5,000 steps on the outage report, so this basically tells me that whatever Perl is doing with its regexp engine is very efficient or very optimized. Like there, so, but I think the output produced by regexp debugger is as accurate as textbook. Like it's pretty good, and then I kind of want to modify it a little bit so that it meets events when it's matching something instead of producing a gigantic JSON that I have to parse. And then I also want to know how to get more information for the RE pragma. So I on the side I write this small tool that you can probably use to. This will use PPI and print out all the regular expression in your code. So maybe you can sort of spot there if there's anything that looks suspicious with this one. So this is the end. But again, this is still a work in progress. If you think you know regular expression or RE engines, maybe we can have a talk about how to sort of proceed with this. Or yeah, well, that's all. Thank you.
Hola, hola. Yep. Hi, I'm here to announce one more time the Perl and Friends, well, the Barcelona Perl and Friends that will happen this November the 9th. And you are all invited to submit talks. It's already open in friends.barcelona.pm. Or if you don't want to submit a talk, you are invited to come and have a nice Barcelona in November. Is kind of here now. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Steffen and I benchmark Perl. I concentrate on benchmarking Perl 5 as is, so I currently don't do any CPIN variations, no Perl 6 yet, no architecture comparison, no compiler option fiddling and so on. One thing that was important for me was to always not have just micro benchmarks but also have a lot of more complex macro benchmarks so that we can see the actual real world impact of either regressions or optimizations. Originally, I wanted to continuously measure and find regressions over time, but nowadays I just do these once in a year big shots, usually at the Perl toolchain summit. Every slide deck that I ever created is on my perlformance.net page. The 2015 slide deck is the most modern one. So what I do is I build all the Perl versions from Git. I keep a stable cpan by basically syncing a local mirror just before I do this big run. Then I rebuild everything, inclusive the cpan dependency, by using this robust patch Perl and really desperately twiddle with the latest quirks that occurred during the last year. Then I run this thing, store all the benchmarks in a separate sub-framework that I created just basically, no, not just for that. Yeah, and I take care of the actual benchmark suites to that they produce stable numbers. So, yeah, at the Perl toolchain summit, which was named the Perl QA hackathon back in the years. So I bring back everything into shape. On the Perl front, cpan and on my tooling, run this, and yeah. Once upon a time, I had a rented bare metal server. I can't afford this anymore, but anyway, I just do it on my laptop. So I also, to keep the benchmarks stable, but also have the ability to maintain them in whatever way, because machines get faster. So I created a comprehensive benchmark suite or super plugin, which contains the best of the existing plugins that I have, and made the version number as part of the name. So it's the Perl Stone 2015, which contains the most interesting plugins. And I also started to write my own micro benchmarks, basically organized by the chapters in the Camel book. Not my idea, but yeah. This is my personal point of interest, but I don't really have much time nowadays. So, and if there should be some substantial rework, I just copy over this thing, clone it into some Perl Stone 20 or something. Yeah, you're probably curious what the actual numbers are. You can find them on performance.net. As I took them in April 2019 this year at the Perl Toolchain Summit, shortly before the 5.30 release. So the charts always show execution time, so smaller means better. And if I should summarize it in one thing, then the story is that it once was slower at the 5.16 times. Perl became or started to get faster at 5.20s, especially on the typical language features like data structures, execution overhead, just these typical programming patterns and edge cases, which helps especially the algorithmic code, which in turn is important for these programming language comparisons. But there are also some areas where it gets slower, which is in particular the irregular expression engine. But overall, 5.30 is the fastest modern Perl version that we ever had. So if you go on my webpage, I just have screenshots here, click on this thing, you end up on this page for the numbers from the Toolchain Summit. I have linked all the single charts from there. I have the raw numbers. So yeah, the first charts show the regular expression micro benchmarks. They still go slightly up, which means they become slower. And basically all these micro benchmarks explain why the most macroscopic benchmark that I have, the Spam Assassin learning program, so it is quite stable, but it goes still up a bit, which is probably makes sense from the regular expression engine. But there are good things on the other side. So the control blocks improve, the whole data access, data munging, function call overhead. So they all help to improve the algorithm speed, like on the spectral norm, n-body, binary trees, and faster. And I could summarize all that like Perl 5 once fast, then feature-rich but slower, now feature-rich and fast again, which is not a haiku, but anyway, I find it's a good story. Thanks.
What are you? USB-C.
Hello, I'm from Erlangen Perlmongers, and 2020 we have our next German Perl Workshop. Yes. We invite you to come to Erlangen this year. Last time we were in Nuremberg, is nearly the same region. Nuremberg has an airport, Nuremberg has a good train connection. So what we need talks. Yes, we need sponsors and attendees. I think all our presentations are with slides in English language, and the others are the language itself, spoken language is maybe English or German.
All right, long journey or maybe not so long journey. Some people may know me, this is me, some people may not know me. The people that know me know that if you ask me a question, I do not quickly jump to conclusions like this or like that. So yeah, that was about it. Okay. So that was a very short conclusion. I think I have still 4 minutes left before I jump to conclusions. So if you ask me a question, or general, if you ask questions, answers are not always black or white. Sometimes they are a little bit grayscale, or maybe they are more diverse. Or questions do not need to have an answer that is either right or wrong. Maybe you drive in the UK or any of the other countries that you have, and then you may be driving at the right side or the wrong side. Things are not always binary, they are not always true or false, especially not in Perl. There are many ways to do things make false, and specifically I had a period in one of the companies I was working where we had to implement this box there. And then you cater your code, and your code will have these silly things that you have actually always thinking binary. You have a if gender equals male, then you do this, else. Yes, you get screwed by the time you have to figure out what this other box will do. So, general questions people ask you is like, where are you working at the moment? Well, I'm working here at Perceptics. Or other questions people ask is, how old are you? Well, 27. Well, my older brother tells me he's 27. And the other brother, that's the second one in the family, he tells always he's 27, so why should I be older than him? By the way, if I go to Facebook and do all these stupid questions, they tell me I am 27, but it doesn't matter. It's just like how young you are at heart, isn't it? Unless you have one of your colleagues that say, nah, your liver will tell you something different. So, yes, the other question people ask is, how are you doing? And I must say, I'm doing very well these days. And I can then say, yes, it's probably since I joined this company. And then you start wondering, why is that? Well, one thing I did, I had some issues about 2 years ago. Perl conference 2017, I was totally drugged and I had to go to a kidney operation because that was, well. Anyways, you know what? Let's go to the gym first before I go into surgery. And I joined this thing, there's eGym, it has a nice application, and at that time I was still working at Broaddean, about 600 kilometers away from where I was living. And this app will tell me my biological age would be, yes, sorry, good. Start training, keep training, doing much things. I moved to a different company, start working for Zaaksysteem.nl, a lovely company, 100 kilometers away from where I'm living. And I was becoming very fit, and yes, that was going well. We did actually do a mud run. This is me, yes, with one of my colleagues. Horrible time. But my biological age, going from 600 kilometers away to 100 kilometers away, became 30. Yes. But then I started working on my garden, do less work in workouts, no fitnesses, and life goes on, moving to a different company like Perceptics. And in all those years, in the entire year, I didn't do any fitness. So, working from home now, I was thinking, you know what? I should go back to the fitness because I have no physical exercise anymore. And what happened in doing nothing, used to think that it was 30, 1 year later, 31, but working remote, working from home, my biological age went down to 29. Now you start thinking, what happened here? So actually 600 kilometers away, you were, what? 100 kilometers away, working from home. Wow, there must be some graph that you can make here. So and I'm thinking, can I get here to some conclusion? Working remote, working from home, is this my conclusion? Working remote is healthy? Thank you. All right, by the way, we are hiring.
Someone lost it in the percent room. It's lying around half a day, and I will give it Wendy. So.
Hello everyone. I didn't mean to make this lightning talk at first. I wanted to make it 30 seconds announcement, but after that I decided that I will probably have something to say actually, so instead of just saying that we have such thing as Ryazan Perl IT workshop, I think I'll tell a little bit of its history. So essentially my city Ryazan is on the down right on this map, so it's not far from Moscow, and you will probably use approximately this way if you decide to go there from Moscow or from the airport. And we didn't have any Perl conferences there. Well, actually we didn't have any Perl developers there for quite a long time. I think there are just 3 developers there, including me, which I know. Once upon a time, I decided that I probably want to have some local Perl meeting there, and the first meeting of this kind was Perl Workshop 2015 in Ryazan. We had a small room, just a few attendees, and Perl-only talks. Half of the attendees were speakers. We didn't have any video recording, just enthusiastic guys who came mostly from other cities and talked about Perl, and that was pretty cool. We had a very similar meeting next year in the same room, and we had slightly more attendees, like more than 10 next time, which was great, much better, yeah. Some non-Perl talks like about Git and migration from Subversion. We actually recorded video. I didn't prepare a photo, but this actually looked nice because video recording was made using laptop web camera. And next year, I decided that I might want to invite more people from other languages, because there are not too many Perl people in general, so other technologies might be welcome too. And we changed the name to IT Workshop in Ryazan, and short name for it is IT Ryazan, not to be confused with I Tarzan or I'm Tarzan, although actually Tarzan became our official logo, our own image of Tarzan. We had a larger room and more attendees that time. We had really great talks this year, and they were about databases, front end, even marketing, about leadership, and we had some lightning talks. One of these lightning talks converted to like 30 minutes real talk because we didn't have we didn't impose time constraints on them. And actually it was like, very secret talk between people who know each other, and it wasn't even recorded. Yeah, but other recordings were available actually, and I used a real camera, not laptop that time. In 2018, we had a real conference room with big screen close to city center, with more than 30 attendees invited. We made the first attempt of online translation. It failed kind of, because I didn't realize that I have to communicate to the hosts of that we need special Wi-Fi requirements. Anyway, we had made the first attempt of P2P rehearsal of talks. So that's a very interesting thing. So essentially, speakers show their talks to each other before the conference and give feedback, useful questions, and how to make your talk better. It was quite successful. We had talks about Lua development, databases, interactions with the customers, but no Perl talks at all, which was quite sad. So I think I need more Perl, because more Perl means more fun. And if by any chance you might want to visit Russia, especially if you don't need visa for that, you don't have any complications, maybe if you want to be a speaker at our event and make an exceptional talk to attract more people and promote Perl, or maybe throw in some money our way for the purpose of holding this event, come and talk to me, maybe during the dinner. Thank you.
Forgot some important thing for German Perl Workshop is it's in March next year, and it's from the 4th to the 6th. And our website is online, and I put this in the Telegram now. March 4th to 6th.
Okay, I wanted to talk about the EPO video recording kits. Those are the things that are allowing people who can't make it to the conference watch the talks live, and also you to watch the talks again, or when you get that inevitable clash of two talks you want to see being at the same time, you can then watch the other talk later. And we bought lots of recording equipment for LPW in 2017, all that stuff, and it worked pretty well. We had a few minor glitches with the sound. The editing took a few weeks because of the time of year, and editing is just a massive time sink anyway. And prior to that, it kind of worked okay. This is the Alpine Perl Workshop, which was just a camera and a shotgun mic. And this is a Swiss Perl Workshop, which was the same setup, but the room was a bit brighter, so it worked better. And we kind of have these recording priorities that we want to be able to hear the speaker, obviously, and see the slides, and promote sponsors, because that's good. Be able to see the speaker. Have some overlays for information about the speaker and what's coming next. Live streaming is good, and editing to add an intro and an outro maybe, and then maybe having high resolution. After LPW, we wanted these kits to become a community resource because we spent quite a bit of money on them, so it seemed a bit pointless to have them sitting there to be used once a year. And conferences can spend an awful lot of money on having video recordings, and that money can be better utilized elsewhere. And we're pretty technical people, so I guess we can kind of do this ourselves. So Mark, Tom and Finn did a lot to improve the kits for the Perl conference in Glasgow, and they added lots more equipment, adapters, a really cool splitter board. I don't know if you've seen this, it's quite interesting. And it worked really well. All 3 rooms were live streamed, and there was a Raspberry Pi that had all the overlay information, and ACT was used to grab the information, to show the speakers and that information. And this is what they looked like at the time. So that is Camellia for scale. That weighs about 20 kilos. It's got lots of equipment in there. The PC took up about half the box, and obviously getting that kind of thing to here is quite a bit of a logistical nightmare, so those have been replaced by laptops. I took one home with me to use at the Swiss Perl Workshop last year. That's at the Gib, which had lots of bandwidth, so it was quite good. Streaming worked well. I could watch the live stream and upload the live stream at the same time, which was kind of a bit matrixy, but it was kind of cool. We also used the kit for the German Perl Workshop this year, and Les Journées Perl, the French Perl Workshop. That's the Swiss Perl Workshop on YouTube. And the great thing is, I just added an index to the description, so there was no editing time sink. It meant I didn't have to spend 8, 20, 48 hours doing editing. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, because you can spend roughly 2 times the amount of time it took the talks to do the editing, which is a lot of time. We did have some problems with the sound capture at the Swiss Perl Workshop, and we really need to improve on that, which means we need to buy more kit. And as I said, these are community resource. They need preparation and some logistics and some forethought to get them to where they need to be. They're actually quite easy to set up and operate. I mean, you may have seen some minor technical glitches, but that's kind of inherent with this kind of process. It just happens now and then. A small donation is very, very welcome to improve the kits. In fact, donations are essential. It's essentially allowed the kit to get here and the kit to get to other places, and the kit to be upgraded, and so on and so forth. And all the donations are recorded, and we will add you to a list of sponsors that help us to do this. And of course, if you want to use a kit for a workshop, get in touch. I tried to get to a few workshops in Europe, and I can help with that. Mark and the rest of EPO can help with that perhaps as well, so just get in touch. And also, other suggestions are welcome, because we're still figuring a lot of this out. If you're wondering why yesterday's live stream was not available after the fact, it's because there was a very small section of music in one of the videos, and about 2 or 3 hours after the video was uploaded, there was a copyright claim filed against the entire 8-hour stream, which meant it was blocked in all countries. So that's the thing we learned yesterday. Yeah, it has been re-uploaded now, and I think that's quite amazing, because pulling out a 30-second clip from an 8-hour video or muting it is not a trivial task. And there's now a repo for issues and more information. You can go there to speak to me about that. And we're going to hopefully use one of these kits at the Swiss Perl Workshop this year, which is next Friday and Saturday in Alton, which is near Bern. And also for the London Perl Workshop, which, don't believe Google, we have changed venue, but it's not in Glasgow. That's some SEO that we need to fix. We moved to David Game College, which is still central. It's near Aldgate Station. It's on the 19th of October. Please sign up, submit talks, come along, sponsor us. Live streaming is unknown at this point because it's a new venue. So hopefully see you in Alton and or London. Thank you.
Hey folks, I just want to say there's been a request from some of the players. If you play Tau Station or you've played in the past or are interested in finding out more about it, some of the people would like to get together so that the players can actually get to know each other in real life and chat about various things. So please stop us afterwards during the dinner, get together, and we can find out who each other is, or we can introduce you to the game. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, hello. My name is Harald. From background, you can see I'm a chemist, but I'm not talking about chemistry today. I'm talking about who has ever been using the software ACT, a conference toolkit. Okay, a few of them. ACT has been used for several dozens of Perl conferences, including the London Perl Workshop and the Swiss Perl Workshop, which had just been quoted, or for the German Perl Workshops. Who of you have been forked the ACT repository? Oh, this is a few more than I would have expected, about half a dozen. Who of you is actually working on the software right now? Tom? Yeah, Tom, of course. Yeah. So things are about to change. It started in the German Perl Workshop last year that I found that a few features didn't actually work. And I thought, we have here a community of people who are actually good in Perl 5, so why shouldn't we just fix it? And, well, the software looked a bit difficult to maintain, but this is just because it hadn't an actual concurrent development or current development for several years. But this has been changed. So thanks to Dom's activity, we have a GitHub group now which is called ACT Testing, and we are actively developing it. And we are also having, this is the demo pulling the actual German Perl Workshop 2019 to the new live server which we have. The URL will become visible shortly. This is based on the actual ACT software plus the PSGI work of Graham Knopp and Rob Hölz, plus the patches by Ilya, plus the work of the the ACT Voyager group from Theo and others, plus some work by Wesley Schwengle. So this is, ACT has 65 forks in total. I haven't checked all of them where we could steal things, but it isn't actually stealing because this is just the license we get. But we are trying to fix things, and we are also writing pull requests to the right now productive server. We have about 10 commits, fixed bug fixes for them. So if you are interested in that, I would be interested in people testing the software, trying to break the port, because we are really about to change a lot of things. We are going to change the database. We have changed the web server. The old production system is a Perl 5.8.9 on FreeBSD with Apache 1 and Mod Perl 1. This is stable. This system, which is running on Dom's domain, is running a PSGI server on Starman. We have just been introducing DBAX class and are about to make it that we can build it with Distiller. So basically, this is what I wanted to tell you. Break it. It has a different database, so you have to re-register. It's not the database, of course, the user database that you have on the production server. Test it, break it. If you want to have your conference tested on that server, whether your customizations work on that server, talk to Dom and to me. We're just cloning a repository of GitHub. That's it.
Hello. I have a spare ticket to a dinner tonight. Would anyone like it? Yes. Joel. That was easy.
Hello. Hi, my name is Mohammad, and I recently started this challenge called Perl Weekly Challenge. You might think, why did I bother starting this challenge? If you remember, Neil Bauer, he used to run this pull request challenge, and he stopped doing this in December 2018. And in the memory of that challenge, which I was very closely attached, I designed this T-shirt, and I presented one of the T-shirt to Neil Bowers at last London Perl Workshop. And ever since that stopped, I was wondering what else I could do to keep myself busy, because that was one of the things that kept me busy 1 month. So to try to do some pull request against this assigned distribution. And then at the same time, I wanted to learn Perl 6. So I started learning Perl 6 using the official doc that you have, and where you have example, for example, how to define a scalar, how to play with array, and all those things. I did first few chapters, and very quickly I got bored. I said, I'm not going to do this line by line, chapter by chapter. It's very boring. So I said, maybe I should come up with a simple challenge, and then try to see how you can do this in Perl 6. And that will force me to go and look back to the doc. Okay, here's the challenge, simple, how can I do it? So that will force me to do the doc lookup. Then again, I decided, okay, if I'm doing challenge all by myself, probably I'll do 1 or 2, and afterwards say, okay, it's boring. There's nobody to help do with me. So I said, okay, why not come up with a challenge where the whole community, or maybe some of the community members will come and do together. That's where I say, okay, let's do a weekly challenge, where I can invite the community to come and do the fun challenge. It doesn't have to be complicated. It would be simple task. Say, for example, I give you a string, and you split a string on certain conditions. Probably take maybe 5 minutes for you if you know enough Perl, or maybe 10 minutes. So it doesn't take a long. And so for such tasks, I thought a week is enough time for you to do that. So that's where that's the idea behind it. So for that, I registered a domain called perlweeklychallenge.org, and I'm not a front-end guy. So the first challenge I had was, how do I build my website? So I should have a web presence. So those who are interested can come and have a look, okay, what's the idea behind it, and what is the format, how can anybody join the challenge, and how do you go about it? So if you have, you can visit the website. This is the home page. I just grabbed this in. You can follow us on the Twitter, PerlW Challenge. And to join the challenge is very simple. You just have to drop one-line email saying, hi, I want to join, to this email address called perlweeklychallenge@yahoo.com. That's it. And what you're going to get is every Monday, you're going to get an email from me saying, hey, this task for this week. And generally, there are 3 tasks. And 2 tasks are mandatory that you should attempt it. The third is an optional, which is an API task. And here's the sample task. This is for the last week's challenge. So task 1 and task 2, we expect you to at least attempt. Task 3, an optional API challenge, which you don't have to, but if you do, that would be great. This is how it looks like. So I send an email with this kind of task, and I expect you to go on. So what happened once you receive the email? Depending on how you do it, the Perl 5 or Perl 6, you create your solution and email back to me. Same address, or you could submit a pull request. Once I get a request, I just do a review, and at the end, I write a blog, what I think about the solutions. This is the last week review. So it's on website, you can go and follow it. There is another member in the team called Kang-min Liu. She does the Perl 5 review. It's a proper review. And you could have the week, she does this weekly, every week, so you can follow. From the week 13, Peter Sargent from Perl Carriers, he came to me saying, Mohammad, I would like to sponsor the prize, so you can give it to one member every week. So whoever submits the solution, you pick one person, and I'll give you $50 American voucher, Amazon voucher, so you can give it to whoever you like to. So these are the winners so far. The first winner was Lauren, was the first challenge winner, and then following the last challenge winner was On Summer. Some of them are here in the team. And looking at so far, these are the chart. We have got the top 50 contributors so far, and this is the 20th week of the challenge. Top one is Joel Maslek with 204 points. You get 2 points for every solution you submit, and 2 points for every blog you write about it. So far, look at this. For Perl 5, we got 880 solutions for Perl 5, as compared to 477 Perl 6 solutions. The best bet is this blog. We got 185 blogs in last 20 weeks. I remember when I used to do this Perl Weekly newsletter, at times we found very difficult to find something about a blog talking about Perl. Hardly any blog. If you look around, there was nothing. Nobody's talking about Perl 5. And I remember Geber emailed me, Mohammad, there's hardly anything to publish in the Perl Weekly newsletter. I thought maybe this will do. Now if you look at the weekly newsletter, there are plenty of blogs talking about Perl 5 and Perl 6 solutions. Now I see there's a specific section in Perl 6 weekly newsletter as well, talking about Perl Weekly Challenge. So I'm glad that more people are talking about, especially Damien Conway. If you don't know, he recently started doing weekly challenge, not as a part of contribution, but he does it on his own. 2 days ago, he posted one of the task solution on Perl blog site. If you're interested, you can go and have a look. Thank you.
There's a second free ticket. Who wants it? Joe, you want another? Nope. Anybody there? Nope.
What the heck?
Okay, this is going to be a quick story, very highly abbreviated, of how we helped out one of our clients. It's called 500 transactions per second. Some of you have read the longer version online. Basically, we had a client who won a very nice contract, but unfortunately they had to go from 39 credit card transactions per second up to 500 because they couldn't scale just scaling out more servers very easy. Each server had to handle 500 transactions per second, and we had some constraints. We had to respect credit card PCI compliance. We had a sprawling legacy code base. I am not going to discuss the in-house ORM because that might violate the standard of conduct. I couldn't change any interfaces. And the database, they were going from transition to Oracle to PostgreSQL at that time, so we were not allowed to change anything in the database, and we had 2 weeks to do it. So we had Sean, our senior systems architect, Noel, our senior software architect, Layla. She always had the answers for our questions and followed everything perfectly. And me, I was brand new to the project because we had to throw an extra body at it. So Noel started tracing through the code, taking copious notes of everything. Sean started investigating the infrastructure. And me, knowing database interaction is often a very serious problem, started digging into that. So I wrote some code which would do a DBI trace on any block of code that you passed in there, writing out all the SQL to a file, and also producing a report that would show up. And for one sample transaction of the type that we had to deal with, 177 SQL statements, and even they were surprised. They didn't realize just how much action they had here. Fortunately, there wasn't any sort of database locking because we weren't touching anyone else's data, just our own, but we had to make the pain stop. So we did some investigation. We found out there was a lot of dead code. We could get rid of that stuff they hadn't realized that they were still running. We were rebuilding a lot of unchanging data so we could safely cache that. There was data that was irrelevant to what we were doing, so we could get rid of that. That removed roughly half the SQL calls, but didn't get us there. We then had to look at the caching situation. So when you brought up a server, it did a lot of caching, and we needed to preheat the cache because we didn't want to have cache misses during production, but it was very slow to bring this up. There was also a lot of memory problems there. We didn't want to risk swapping, having any sort of memory contention. And even though the data that was being cached was global, it was being done per server. So we went ahead and switched that over to Redis. We centralized caching data. Now if we had to bring up a new server during this half-hour event, we didn't have to worry about the caching problem. It made it a lot easier. Much lower memory consumption. But there was SOAP. So we call a front end, not a web front end, but we had the front end servers, which would read some SOAP in, deserialize it, parse it, process it, create some more SOAP objects with a lot of encryption, send this off to the back end servers, which are heavily shielded behind firewalls. They would have to deserialize the SOAP, decrypt it, parse it, and process it, and this was slow. Oh, they also had over 20 versions of SOAP, and each version 20 versions was the version -1 cut and pasted into a new file. So you had to modify every single version, but we discovered we only had one version we had to touch. They gave us permission to only modify that one. But you might be wondering, so SOAP, simple object access protocol, there's some object-like stuff in there. How do you call methods on that? Well, we all know how to do that. You use autoload. And they also use some more autoload, and some more autoload, and some more autoload, which is really, really horrible. If you're not familiar with what autoload is in Perl, it's the answer to the question, how can I make something more dangerous but more useful than on error resume next? So we realized, we tried to fix some of the autoload, but it was too much of a pain. So what we realized is we didn't have to pass SOAP to the back end. Instead, we never figured out why they were passing SOAP to their back end because that wasn't exposed to the customer. So we had Redis plus asymmetric cryptography. We could encrypt and store the raw data on Redis. The back end could pull it off, decrypt it, and have the data they needed without having all the SOAP processing. So we had our first big test, and we were up to about 200 to 300 transactions per second. We're really happy about that. Sometimes we blocked because they were using an external service. We managed to get around that. I won't say why or how right now. I don't have enough time. We had another big test after that, 700 transactions per second, improving this thing just by a tremendous amount. They were very happy. Nothing was blocking. Very, very little database traffic. And it was time for our first production test, and that was awesome because they had beefier servers and much faster network and 200 transactions per second. So I was unhappy. There was a number of reasons why this went poorly, but basically, you remember I mentioned they were migrating from from Oracle to PostgreSQL? Well, PostgreSQL out of the box is fast. Oracle out of the box is expensive. We didn't need no SQL. We needed no SQL. And then we realized half-hour event, every charge could be pre-authorized, and we could then charge it afterwards. So during the event, we would serialize the transaction, encrypt it, save it. After the event, we could read it, decrypt it, charge it, and we got down to 1 SQL call per transaction. So we hit our 500 transactions per second. The code functioned flawlessly during the event. We had a very happy client.
Okay. This is translating the Perl 5 is dead. Because people always complain, oh, well, but I'm using Perl 5 in my production code and we are still alive and so on. Yes. Okay. The first assumption Perl always had is there is a user bin Perl. A lot of software is written in Perl just because it's there. Lots of important software, for example Automake, has been ported from Shell to Perl because Perl was better than Shell and Perl is in user bin. And this is more than 25 years ago. In the meantime, the people learned from the former mistakes, for example, don't open with global file handles. They don't update the modules of the system Perl. If they have to use system Perl, they rely on the oldest system Perl they have in their entire network, which is probably the Solaris 8 one. And when they write own software, they bundle their self-written software with a version of Perl they actually want to use. And then they might use something else. Okay. So relying on user bin Perl becomes less and less important. And we have a concurrency situation now with all other languages on the market. But millions of system admins do tiny sys automation using Perl for sanitizing line endings, get rid of blank lines, and so on. For example, parsing some CSV, colon-separated files, whatever, and so on. But when it's come to JSON processing, no one thinks about Perl. I really tried for several clients, and they all answer with the same answer. So, fine. And when people who have no idea at all come new to system automation, they probably talk Python because they have a feature-rich bundled libraries within the core. Well, yes. So, we heard Perl has no killer app. Well, I would say 99.9% using that. So, well, this makes a killer app. But no one in Perl world cares about them because it's ugly and unperlish. Yes. We have Rexify, a wonderful tool for system automation way beyond how it's called Puppet. And we have a lot of Git plugins written in Perl. Yeah. And we have a lot of text processing daily work. So, Perl itself is the killer app. But why is it that? Okay. We have less and less people maintaining those ugly scripts like automake or other ugly scripts in Unix and Linux userland. And the Perl configure tooling doesn't support the requirements the modern package building framework addresses. This is unfortunate because Perl was there before AutoConf came out. So Perl never switched to AutoConf because AutoConf is bleeding edge. We want stable stuff. Okay. And it's probably a CI problem, but Perl 5 doesn't build out of the box on anything but Linux and maybe Windows. A lot of BSDs, Darwin, AIX, HBUX fail out of the box. HBUX, I don't know, Marin should know. Okay, and as a conclusion, operating system maintainers start removing Perl 5 from user bin Perl. And once it's gone, it won't come back to there. Not Perl 5. It's bad, but that's it. So, we have probably an answer which can step in. It won't be Perl 5, that's fact. So, when we want Perl 6 step in that gap, we have to name it Perl. Otherwise, it won't be user bin Perl. It would be user bin whatever. Okay, and when we do, Perl 5 and Perl 6 must be installed as Perl, and they must have optionally a suffix for the version. They do not have to fight, it must be definable by the package manager. And Perl 6 needs a hackathon to support most of the system one-liners the Unix admins require. not those with the deprecated syntax which are removed from Perl 5 core greatly. Yes? Okay. If any questions, ask me at the dinner.
Me again. One of the things I didn't mention about the Swiss Perl Workshop is that the schedule is online already, and we do have time for talks. I've also reserved a couple of hours on the Saturday morning for an open discussion, which will be a continuation of the discussion we had in Bern in May, which pertains to what we want the future of the Swiss Perl Workshop to be, what the scope of the workshop is, and also the naming of the workshop. So if you're interested in that, that's on the Saturday morning in Alton. Thank you.
Before I start, just say I wrote this on a phone while I was at the video desk, but I was listening to all of you wonderful speakers while I did it. Just didn't do any slides. The number Sneeches. Adapted from the Sneeches by Dr. Seuss. My apologies to him. Now, the 5-belly Sneeches had bellies with 5s. The 6-bellied Sneeches had 6s all their lives. Those numbers weren't big, they were really quite small. You might think such a thing wouldn't be mentioned at all. But because they had 5s, all the 5-bellied Sneeches would brag we're the best kind of Sneech on the beaches. With their snoots in the air, they would sniff in their snort. We have nothing to do with that 6-bellied short. And whenever they met some, whenever out walking, they'd hike right on past them without even talking. And for the Sneech who proudly wore 7, he was slid to a corner with one weighing 11. When the 5-belly children went out to write code, could a 6-belly write? No, they were surely too old. You could only write if your bellies had 5s. All the 6-belly children led different lives. When the 5-belly Sneeches had hallway tracks or social parties or marshmallow snacks, they never invited the 6-belly Sneeches. They left them out cold in the dark of the beaches. They kept them away, never let them come near, and that's how they treated them year after year. Then, one day, it seems, while the 6-belly Sneeches were moping and doping alone on the beaches, just sitting there wishing their friends were with 5s, a stranger zipped up to enlighten their lives. My friends, he announced, in a voice loud and clear, my name is Marky McMonkey McBean, and I've heard of your troubles, I've heard you're unhappy, but I can fix that, I'm a fix-up chappy. I've come here to help you, I have what you need, and my prices are low, and I work at great speed, and all of my work is 100% guaranteed. Then quickly, Marky McMonkey McBean put together a very peculiar machine. Using some devs he pulled from a hat, who worked for a company named after a cat, and he said you need 5s like a 5-belly Sneech. My friends, you can have them for €3 each. Just pay me your money and hop right aboard. So they clambered inside, and the big machine roared. As it clonked and it bonked and it jerked and it burked and it bopped them about, but the thing really worked. The 6-belly Sneeches popped out with 6s and 5s. They actually did, to enlighten their lives. And they yelled at the ones who had 5s at the start, we're 5s like you can't keep us apart. We're all just the same, we have 6 and we have 5. Now we can all lead a much better lives. Good grief, groaned the ones who had 5s at the first. We're still the best Sneeches and they are the worst. But how in the world will people know they all frowned? If which number is what and which way it is round. They came to McBean with a very sly wink, and he said, things are not quite as bad as you think. So you don't know who's who, that is perfectly true. But come with me, friends, you know what I'll do? I'll make you again the best Sneeches on the beaches, and all it will cost you is €10 eaches. 5 alone is no longer in style, said McBean. What you need is a trip through my sits-on machine. The wondrous contraption will add 6 to your heart, so you won't look like the Sneeches who only had 6 at the start. And that handy machine working very precisely, added a 6 after 5, really quite nicely. Then with their snoots in the air, they paraded about, and they opened their beaks and they let out a shout, we know who is who, now there isn't a mix. The best kind of Sneeches are Sneeches 5 sits. Then, of course, those 6-5s got frightfully mad. To be wearing 6-5 was now frightfully bad. Then, of course, old Marky McMonkey McBean invited them into his number switch machine. And then, of course, from then on, as you probably guess, things started to get into quite a horrible mess. All the rest of that day on those wild screaming beaches, the fix-it-up chappie kept fixing up Sneeches. 5 sits again, sits 5 again, in again and out again. Then through the machine they raced around and around and about again, changing numbers every minute or two. They kept paying money, they kept running through, until neither the sits nor the 5 bellies knew whether this one was that one, or that one was this one, or which one was what one, or what one was who. Then when every last cent of their money was spent, the fix-it-up chappie packed up and he went. And he thought as he drove in his car at the beach, they really will have to learn that a Sneech is a Sneech. And McBean was quite right. I'm quite happy to say that the Sneeches got really quite smart on that day. That day they decided that Sneeches are Sneeches and no kind of Sneech is the best on the beaches. That day all the Sneeches added the word Perl. The number didn't matter, the word was their world.